There was a moment in my life when everything I thought I knew about myself crumbled. I was Dr. Richard Alpert, a Harvard professor with all the credentials, all the answers, all the security that comes from being somebody important. Then I found myself sitting in a small room in India, stripped of everything that once defined me, facing a simple truth that would change everything. I had been living as if I were separate from the very love I had been seeking my entire life. The guru looked at me with eyes that seemed to see through every layer of protection I had built around my heart. In that moment, I wasn't a professor, I wasn't successful, I wasn't anything except a soul recognizing itself in another soul. That's when I understood what it really means to come home, not to a place, but to yourself. The journey from who you think you are to who you truly are is the most sacred adventure you'll ever take. What if I told you that the very thing that seems to separate you from love is actually an illusion? Not just a philosophical concept, but a living, breathing misunderstanding that colors every moment of your existence. We walk through life believing we are isolated islands of consciousness, floating in an ocean of otherness. We look at the person next to us on the subway and see a stranger. We gaze at the stars and feel alone in the vastness. We experience pain and believe we're the only ones who have ever felt this particular shade of suffering. This illusion runs so deep that we've built our entire identity around it. We spend our days reinforcing the walls between ourselves and the world, between ourselves and each other, between ourselves and the divine. Every time we say, I am different, every time we think they wouldn't understand, every time we hold back our love because we fear it won't be received, we're feeding this beautiful, tragic illusion. But her is what's extraordinary about this illusion. It's not your enemy. It's not something to fight or overcome through force. It's actually a gift, a kind of cosmic game of hide and seek, where the divine has hidden itself so well that we've forgotten we're all part of the same love, the same consciousness, the same eternal dance of being. When you were a child, did you ever play hide and seek and hide so well that you forgot where you were? For a moment, there was this delicious panic. Am I lost? Where am I? But then you remembered, and the relief was so sweet because you realized you were never actually lost at all. You were always right where you belonged. That's what spiritual awakening is like. It's not about finding something new or becoming someone different. It's about remembering what was always true. You are not separate from the love that created you. You are not separate from the person sitting next to you. You are not separate from the trees, the sky, the infinite web of existence that breathes through every moment. The mystics have always known this. They've tried to tell us in their poetry, their songs, their ecstatic dances. I am you, you are me, we are all together, as the Beatles put it. It's a way of embodying the truth that we're all just walking each other home. That phrase, we're all just walking each other home, has become central to how I understand the human journey. We're all on this path together, all trying to find our way back to love, back to truth, back to the source of our being, and we're not meant to walk this path alone. The beautiful thing about the spiritual journey is that it's not a solo adventure. Yes, you have to do your own inner work. Yes, you have to face your own shadows and embrace your own light. But you don't have to do it in isolation. In fact, you can't do it in isolation because the very nature of awakening is relational. We wake up through each other. We heal through each other. We remember who we are through the mirrors that other souls provide. Every person you meet is offering you a chance to see yourself more clearly, to love more fully, to understand more deeply what it means to be human. Think about the people who have been most significant in your spiritual development. Chances are they weren't the ones who had all the answers or who seemed to have achieved some kind of perfection. They were the ones who were willing to be real with you, to share their struggles and their insights, to walk beside you on the path rather than standing above you as teachers. This is what I mean by walking each other home. We're all wounded healers, all broken open hearts, all souls who are learning to love despite our fears and limitations. We're all in various stages of remembering who we really are, and we're all here to help each other remember. Sometimes you'll be the one who needs support, who needs someone to hold space for your pain or confusion or fear. Sometimes you'll be the one offering support, sharing your strength and clarity with someone who's struggling. Most of the time, you'll be both simultaneously receiving and giving, learning and teaching, being helped and helping. This is the profound intimacy of shared human experience. We're not just sharing the same planet or the same moment in history. We're sharing the same journey of consciousness, the same quest for meaning, the same longing for love. We're all expressions of the same divine energy, learning about itself through the countless forms it takes. When you really understand this, loneliness becomes impossible. Not because you're always surrounded by people, but because you realize you're never actually alone. You're part of an infinite web of consciousness, connected to every being that has ever lived or will ever live. You're part of the story that the universe is telling about itself. This doesn't mean that you won't feel lonely sometimes, or that you won't experience the very real pain of isolation or grief or loss. It means that underneath these temporary experiences, there's a deeper truth. You belong here. You're not an accident or a mistake. You're not separate from the love that created you and sustains you in every moment. This belonging isn't something you have to earn or achieve. It's your birthright. It's the truth of what you are, even when you can't feel it or remember it. And when you do remember it, when you do feel it, your job is to help others remember it too. This is how we walk each other home, not by having all the answers, but by being willing to sit in the questions together. Not by being perfect, but by being authentic. Not by trying to save each other, but by seeing each other clearly and loving what we see. This brings us to the ultimate teaching, the final invitation of the spiritual path, to stop seeking love and start being love, to stop looking for the divine and start embodying it, to stop trying to become someone spiritual and start living as the love that you already are. This is perhaps the most radical shift in understanding that can happen to a human being. For most of your life, you've been operating from the assumption that you need to get love, find love, earn love, deserve love. You've been looking for it in relationships, in achievements, in experiences, in spiritual practices. You've been seeking it everywhere except in the one place it actually exists, right here, right now, as the very essence of what you are. Love isn't something you have. Love is something you are. It's not a feeling that comes and goes, though it may express itself through feelings. It's not dependent on circumstances or other people or even your own emotional state. Love is the fundamental nature of consciousness itself, the ground of being from which all experience arises. When you truly understand this, your whole life becomes a love offering. Every breath becomes a prayer. Every action becomes a form of devotion. Every encounter becomes a chance to express the love that you are. This doesn't mean you become some kind of blissed-out saint who never feels anger or sadness or fear. It means you start to recognize that even your difficult emotions are movements of love, love seeking to protect, love seeking to be heard, love seeking to be understood. Living as love itself means bringing your full humanity to every moment. It means being real rather than spiritual, authentic rather than perfect, present rather than enlightened. It means loving your neuroses and your limitations and your beautiful, messy, complicated human heart. This is the great secret that all the spiritual traditions point toward. You don't need to become anything other than what you already are. You don't need to transcend your humanity. You need to embrace it so completely that you discover the divine at its heart. The love that you are isn't separate from your personality or your history or your particular way of being in the world. It's not something that exists in addition to who you are. It's what you are, expressing itself through the unique form of your life. When you live from this understanding, you become a blessing to everyone you meet, not because you're trying to be a blessing, but because you can't help but be one. Your presence becomes a reminder to others of their own true nature. Your love becomes a catalyst for their own remembering. This is the final frontier of spiritual development, not becoming someone special, but recognizing that you're already someone special. Not achieving enlightenment, but realizing that you're already enlightened. Not finding love, but embodying the love that you've always been. After all these years of teaching, after all these experiences of seeking and finding and losing and finding again, I keep coming back to this simple truth. You are loved beyond your wildest imagination, not because of what you do or achieve or become, but because of what you are. And what you are is love itself, temporarily forgetting its own nature, playing at being human, learning to remember itself through the beautiful, broken, perfect imperfection of this life. So here's my invitation to you. Stop looking for love and start being it. Stop seeking the divine and start expressing it. Stop trying to become enlightened and start living as the light that you already are. The world needs your particular flavor of love, your unique way of being present, your individual expression of the universal heart. This is how we heal the world, not through grand gestures or perfect understanding, but through the simple, radical act of being who we really are. This is how we create heaven on earth, not by escaping our humanity, but by loving it so completely that it becomes transparent to the divine. Remember, you are not a human being having a spiritual experience. You are a spiritual being having a human experience. And the purpose of that experience is to learn to love yourself, others, and the great mystery that dances through all of existence. We're all just walking each other home, and home is here, now, in this moment, in this breath, in this love that you are and have always been. Welcome home, beloved. Welcome home. But we've been so invested in our separateness that we've turned even these profound truths into mere philosophy, something to think about rather than live. The invitation is to step out of the thinking mind and into the feeling heart, to stop analyzing the illusion and start experiencing the truth. When you do this, something miraculous happens. The walls begin to dissolve, the boundaries become permeable. You start to feel the love that has always been there, waiting patiently for you to remember. This isn't about losing yourself or becoming some kind of spiritual doormat. It's about finding your true self, the self that was never actually separate from anything. The self that is love itself, expressing through the beautiful temporary form that you call your life. Now, if this illusion of separation is so beautiful and so persistent, what keeps it in place? What is the mechanism that maintains this cosmic game of hide and seek? The answer lies in something we all know intimately, something that has become both our greatest asset and our most limiting prison: the ego. The ego is perhaps the most misunderstood aspect of human consciousness. We've been taught to hate it, to fight it, to transcend it. But what if I told you that the ego isn't your enemy? What if the very thing you've been trying to escape is actually your greatest teacher? The ego is like a security guard that was hired to protect you when you were young and vulnerable. It learned to scan for threats, to build walls, to create strategies for survival. It became very, very good at its job. So good, in fact, that it never learned when to clock out and go home. Think about it this way. When you were a child, you needed to learn that the stove was hot, that strangers could be dangerous, that you couldn't just run into traffic. Your ego helped you navigate these realities. It created a sense of self that would as separate from the world, because in practical terms, your body is separate from the stove, separate from the car, separate from the stranger. But somewhere along the way, this practical tool became an identity. The security guard became the CEO. The ego, which was meant to serve your survival, began to define your entire sense of self. It started telling you not just what was dangerous, but who you were, what you were worth, what you needed to be happy. This is when the ego becomes your prison guard. It keeps you locked in patterns that no longer serve you. It whispers that you're not good enough, not spiritual enough, not successful enough. It compares you to others constantly, always finding you lacking or superior, both positions that maintain the illusion of separation. The ego loves to be right. It loves to be special. It loves to be the star of its own drama. Even in spiritual seeking, the ego can take over, turning the journey toward love into another competition, another way to feel superior to those less awakened beings. But here's the beautiful paradox. The ego is also made of love. It's not some dark force that invaded your consciousness. It's a creation of the same divine intelligence that created everything else. It's love dressed up as protection, playing the role of the guard so convincingly that it has forgotten its true nature. When you understand this, your relationship with the ego transforms completely. Instead of fighting it, you can thank it. Instead of trying to kill it, you can love it back to its true purpose. You can say, "Thank you, ego, for trying to protect me. Thank you for all the ways you've helped me survive. But I'm safe now. I'm ready to remember who I really am." This doesn't mean the ego disappears. It means it takes its rightful place as a tool rather than a tyrant. It means you can use your sense of individual identity to navigate the world while never forgetting that you are also part of something infinitely larger. The ego, when it's functioning properly, is like a good friend who helps you remember to pay your bills and look both ways before crossing the street. But when it's running the show, it's like a friend who's so anxious about your safety that they never let you leave the house. The question isn't how to get rid of the ego. The question is how to love it so completely that it relaxes into its natural state of service. How to embrace it so fully that it no longer needs to maintain its exhausting vigilance. This brings us to one of the most profound and challenging teachings of the spiritual path, the sacred art of letting go. If the ego is the prison guard, then letting go is the key that unlocks the door. But this isn't the kind of letting go that you can force or manufacture through willpower. True letting go is like learning to float in water. If you try to float by controlling every muscle, by thinking your way through it, you'll sink. But if you relax, if you trust the water to hold you, if you surrender to the natural buoyancy of your being, you'll discover that floating is your natural state. Most of us have been taught that surrender is weakness, that letting go means giving up. We've been conditioned to grip, to control, to make things happen through force of will. But what if I told you that the most powerful thing you can do is learn to let go? Letting go doesn't mean becoming passive or resigned. It means recognizing that there are forces in this universe far greater and more intelligent than your individual will. It means trusting that the same love that grows the trees and moves the planets is also growing your life, moving your story toward its perfect unfolding. This is perhaps the most difficult teaching for the Western mind to accept. We've been raised to be heroes of our own stories, to believe that we're supposed to figure everything out, control every outcome, manage every relationship. But what if your job isn't to be the hero? What if your job is to be the lover? The lover doesn't try to control the beloved. The lover doesn't try to figure out love. The lover simply loves, and in loving, discovers that love is the most powerful force in the universe. Love doesn't need to be managed or understood. It needs to be trusted. When you begin to let go, you discover that you're not actually losing control. You're finding a different kind of control. You're finding the control that comes from alignment with the natural flow of existence. You're finding the power that comes from cooperation rather than domination. This is what the Tao Te Ching means when it says that the soft overcomes the hard, that water wears away stone. It's not that water is trying to defeat stone. It's that water is simply being water, following its natural course. And in that natural flow, it has the power to reshape mountains. Letting go is like this. It's not about becoming weak or powerless. It's about finding the strength that comes from aligning with the deeper currents of existence. It's about discovering that when you stop swimming against the river carries you exactly where you need to go. But how do you let go of something you don't even realize you're holding? How do you surrender when you don't know what surrender feels like? This is where the practice begins. This is where the real work of spiritual transformation takes place. The first step is simply noticing. Noticing when you're gripping, noticing when you're trying to control, noticing when you're holding your breath, metaphorically speaking. Just the act of noticing, without judgment, without trying to change anything, begins to create space around the holding. Then comes the gentlest invitation. What would it feel like to soften here? What would it feel like to trust here? What would it feel like to let this moment be exactly as it is, without your management or improvement? This isn't about letting go of everything at once. It's about learning to let go in small moments, in small ways. Letting go of the need to be right in this conversation. Letting go of the need to have the perfect response. Letting go of the need to understand why something is happening. Each small letting go is like a note in a symphony. Individually, it might seem insignificant, but together, these moments of surrender create a song of such beauty that it begins to transform not just your life, but the lives of everyone around you. This is the paradox of spiritual surrender. The more you let go, the more you become yourself. The more you trust, the more trustworthy you become. The more you love without conditions, the more love you have to give. This is the beginning of the journey from separation to unity, from fear to love, from the small self to the infinite self. This is the beginning of experiencing the universal love that has always been your true nature. Once you begin to soften into this way of being, something beautiful starts to happen. The sacred stops being confined to temples and meditation cushions. The divine stops being something you have to seek in exotic locations or mystical experiences. You start to find God in the grocery store. I remember the first time this really hit me. I was standing in line at the supermarket, probably irritated about waiting, probably lost in my mental chatter about all the things I had to do. Then I looked at the woman in front of me, really looked at her. She was fumbling with her coupons, clearly struggling, and I could see the cashier getting impatient. In that moment, something shifted. I saw her not as an inconvenience, not as a stranger, but as a soul having a human experience just like me. That's when I understood what the mystics mean when they say God is everywhere. They don't mean everywhere in some abstract philosophical sense. They mean everywhere in the most literal, immediate, this moment sense. The divine is in the tired mother trying to keep her children quiet while she shops. It's in the teenager bagging groceries, probably thinking about weekend plans. It's in the elderly man carefully counting his change, dignity, and vulnerability intertwined. This isn't about seeing everyone as perfect or pretending that difficult people aren't difficult. It's about recognizing that every person you encounter is a unique expression of the same consciousness that looks out through your eyes. Every face is another face of God, playing another role in this cosmic drama. The spiritual path isn't about escaping the ordinary world. It's about falling in love with it so completely that you can't help but see its sacred nature. It's about recognizing that washing dishes can be as holy as sitting in meditation, that changing a diaper can be as sacred as chanting in a temple. When you start to see this way, everything becomes your teacher. The driver who cuts you off becomes a teacher of patience. The friend who disappoints you becomes a teacher of forgiveness. The child who interrupts your important phone call becomes a teacher of presence. Even the parts of yourself that you've been trying to fix or improve become teachers of self-acceptance. This doesn't mean you become passive or stop discerning. It means you stop fighting reality and start dancing with it. You stop trying to make life conform to your preferences and start finding the love that's already present in what is. The extraordinary truth is that there's nothing ordinary about ordinary life, ever. My breath is a miracle. Every heartbeat is a gift. Every moment of awareness is a glimpse into the infinite. The problem isn't that life lacks magic. The problem is that we've been looking for magic in all the wrong places. We've been taught to seek the spectacular, the dramatic, the peak experience. But what if the real magic is in the space between the spectacular moments? What if the divine is hiding in plain sight, in the taste of your morning coffee, in the sound of rain on the roof, in the feeling of your feet touching the ground? When you begin to experience life this way, you discover that you don't need to go anywhere or become anyone different to touch the sacred. You don't need to have mystical experiences or achieve enlightenment. You just need to wake up to what's already here, to who you already are, to the love that's already present in this moment. This is perhaps the most radical teaching of all. You are already home. You are already whole. You are already loved beyond measure. The spiritual path isn't about getting somewhere else. It's about recognizing where you are. But here's what makes this journey so poignant and so human. We don't usually wake up to this truth through bliss and ecstasy. We wake up through heartbreak. We discover who we really are not in our moments of triumph, but in our moments of deepest pain. The wounds that we spend so much energy trying to heal or hide or transcend, these wounds are often our greatest teachers. I learned this in the most profound way when I had my stroke. In an instant, everything I thought I was, the articulate teacher, the capable human being, the person who had it all figured out, was stripped away. I couldn't speak properly. I couldn't move the way I wanted to. I was forced to confront my own vulnerability, my own mortality, my own complete dependence on others for the most basic needs. At first, I raged against this reality. The ego fought hard to maintain its image of competence and control, but slowly something else began to emerge. In the place where my old identity had been, I found something much more authentic, much more tender, much more real. I found the part of me that had always been there, but had been covered over by all my roles and achievements and spiritual attainments. The stroke became my teacher. The limitation became liberation. The loss became a doorway to a different kind of wholeness. Not the wholeness of having everything together, but the wholeness of being broken open in love. This is what I mean when I say that your wounds carry wisdom. They're not mistakes or punishments or evidence of your failure. They're cracks in the ego's armor, places where the light can get in. They're invitations to discover who you are beyond your story of yourself. Every person who has ever lived has carried wounds. The question isn't whether you'll be wounded. The question is whether you'll let your wounds become doorways to compassion, whether you'll let your pain become a bridge to understanding others' pain, whether you'll let your brokenness become an opening to grace. This doesn't mean you should seek out suffering or pain. It means you can stop running from the inevitable difficulties of human existence and start asking, what is this here to teach me? How is this breaking me open to love? How is this helping me become more real, more present, more compassionate? When you approach your wounds this way, something miraculous happens. The pain doesn't necessarily go away, but it transforms. It becomes workable. It becomes a source of wisdom rather than a source of suffering. It becomes a gift you can offer to others who are walking similar paths. The people who have been most helpful to me in my life haven't been the ones who had perfect lives or easy answers. They've been the ones who had been broken open by life and had let that brokenness become a source of tenderness, of understanding, of deep, abiding love. This is the alchemy of spiritual transformation, turning lead into gold, turning wounds into wisdom, turning suffering into compassion. It's not about transcending your humanity. It's about embracing it so completely that you discover the divine at the heart of even your most difficult experiences. But what about when life presents you with challenges that seem to have no meaning, no purpose, no lesson? What about when you're faced with uncertainty so complete that you can't even see a path forward? What about when all your spiritual practices and insights feel inadequate in the face of the unknown? This is where the spiritual path gets really interesting. This is where you learn to dance with uncertainty. Most of us have been conditioned to see uncertainty as a problem to be solved. We think we need to have answers, to understand why things are happening, to see the bigger picture. We think faith means having certainty about the future, and doubt means we're failing spiritually. But what if uncertainty isn't a problem to be solved? What if it's a gift to be received? What if the not knowing is actually a doorway to a different kind of knowing? In my years of teaching, I've noticed that people are often more interested in certainty than in truth. They want to know what's going to happen, what it all means, how it's all going to work out. They want spiritual practices that will give them control over their experience, that will guarantee specific outcomes. But life has a way of humbling these desires. Life has a way of presenting us with situations that can't be figured out, relationships that can't be controlled, losses that can't be understood. Life has a way of stripping away our illusions of knowing and leaving us standing in the mystery. This is terrifying for the ego, which derives its sense of security from knowing, from understanding, from being able to predict and control. But it's liberating for the soul, which recognizes that mystery is the natural state of existence, that not knowing is actually a form of openness, a form of receptivity to what wants to emerge. Think about it. Every moment is actually unprecedented. Even though we have patterns and habits and predictable responses, no moment has ever happened before exactly as it's happening now. Every breath is unique. Every heartbeat is unrepeatable. Every encounter is a first-time meeting between souls. When you really let this in, you realize that you're always in unknown territory. You're always improvising. You're always making it up as you go along. And this isn't a bug in the system. It's a feature. It's what makes life creative, spontaneous, alive. The invitation is to stop trying to figure it all out and start showing up for what is. To stop demanding answers and start living the questions, to stop trying to eliminate uncertainty and start finding the freedom that lives in the space of not knowing. This doesn't mean being passive or irresponsible. It means holding your plans lightly, making your decisions with care, and staying open to the possibility that life might have something even more beautiful in store than what you can imagine. When you learn to dance with uncertainty, you discover something remarkable. You don't need to know what's coming next to be fully present for what's happening now. You don't need to understand the meaning of your life to live it with love. You don't need to have all the answers to trust the process. This is where faith becomes real. Not faith in a particular outcome, but faith in the process itself. Faith that the same intelligence that orchestrates the dance of galaxies and the migration of butterflies is also orchestrating your life, even when you can't see the pattern. This kind of faith doesn't eliminate fear or uncertainty. It transforms them. Fear becomes excitement. Uncertainty becomes adventure. The unknown becomes pregnant with possibility. This is the foundation of what I call loving awareness, the revolutionary practice of meeting whatever arises with an open heart and a present mind. It's not about having loving feelings all the time or being aware of everything simultaneously. It's about cultivating a basic friendliness toward your experience, whatever it is. Loving awareness is like having a good friend who stays with you no matter what you're going through. This friend doesn't try to fix you or change you or make you feel better. This friend simply sits with you, holds space for whatever you're experiencing, and reminds you that you're not alone. When you bring this quality of loving awareness to your life, everything starts to shift. You stop being at war with your experience and start being curious about it. You stop trying to get rid of the difficult emotions and start investigating them with kindness. You stop judging your thoughts and start observing them with compassion. This is the revolution I'm talking about, not a political or social revolution, but a revolution in consciousness. It's the shift from fear-based living to love-based living, from reactive patterns to responsive presence, from the illusion of separation to the reality of connection. This revolution starts with you, but it doesn't end with you. When you begin to embody loving awareness, you become a catalyst for transformation in everyone you meet. Your presence becomes a gift. Your way of being becomes a teaching. Your love becomes a force for healing in the world. You don't have to be perfect to offer this gift. You don't have to have it all figured out or be free from all your patterns and problems. You just have to be willing to show up with whatever level of love and awareness you have access to in this moment. This is the beautiful paradox of spiritual service. The more you offer yourself in love, the more yourself you become. The more you give your love away, the more love you have to give. The more you serve others awakening, the more awake you become. This is how the personal becomes universal. This is how individual transformation becomes collective healing. This is how the revolution of loving awareness spreads from heart to heart, from soul to soul, until the whole world is transformed by love. This brings us to one of the most profound discoveries of the spiritual path. Service isn't something you do for others, it's something you do for yourself. But not in the way the ego might think. It's not about getting something back or earning spiritual points or even feeling good about yourself. It's about discovering that when you truly serve another being, you dissolve the illusion of separation between yourself and them. When I first went to India, I thought I was going to find God through meditation, through spiritual practices, through sitting at the feet of a guru, and those things were certainly part of my journey. But what I discovered was that the fastest way to touch the divine was through serving others, through what we call seva, selfless service. I remember working with people who were dying, sitting with them in their final moments, helping them navigate the transition from life to death. At first, I thought I was there to help them. I thought I was the one with something to offer. But what I discovered was that they were teaching me about courage, about surrender, about the preciousness of each moment. They were showing me what it means to let go completely, to trust the process even when you can't see where it's leading. This is the paradox of service. When you think you're giving, you're actually receiving. When you think you're helping, you're actually being helped. When you think you're serving others, you're actually serving your own awakening. This happens because true service dissolves the boundaries between self and other. When you're fully present with someone who's suffering, when you're holding space for their pain without trying to fix it or change it, something magical happens. You stop being the helper and the helped, the giver and the receiver. You become one heart, one awareness, one love expressing itself through two bodies. This is why Mother Teresa could say that she saw Jesus in every person she served. She wasn't being metaphorical or overly religious. She was describing the literal truth of what happens when you serve from the heart. The face of the beloved becomes visible in every face. The divine becomes tangible in every encounter. Service becomes a gateway to grace because it takes you out of the small story of yourself and into the larger story of love. It moves you from the question, what can I get, to the question, what can I give? And in that shift, you discover that you already have everything you need to make a difference. You don't need to be rich or powerful or enlightened to serve. You don't need to solve anyone's problems or heal anyone's wounds. You just need to show up with an open heart and a willingness to be present for whatever arises. Sometimes the greatest service is simply listening without judgment. Sometimes it's holding someone's hand while they cry. Sometimes it's offering a smile to a stranger who looks like they need one. The Seva Foundation, which I helped create, works all over the world alleviating suffering, building hospitals, preventing blindness, serving those who are often forgotten by society. But what we've discovered is that the people doing the serving are often transformed as much as the people being served. The volunteers come back changed, opened, more connected to their own hearts and to the web of life that connects us all. This is because service is actually a form of spiritual practice. It's a way of remembering that you're not separate from the suffering of the world or from the joy of the world.